Today we're going to share with you how to calibrate the sensor for the PressureGuardian system using the PressureGuardian calibration jig. Initially we're going to take the calibration jig out of the package and we're going to hook up the pump to the calibration jig. We want to make sure that this pump is securely fastened on the end of the jig. Once that's securely fastened, we will ensure that the sensor is working and the PressureGuardian is linked to the module. Now it's very important that every time you use a new sensor, we calibrate it, because there is a slight degree of drift, and it's good to reduce the amount of drift for accuracy measures and also for repeatability of sensing pressure. Now we're going to go to our calibration screen. So I want to make sure I'm on sensor 1. If I have multiple sensors, I can swipe to sensor 2, 3, and 4. But we're going to start with sensor 1 since I'm only calibrating a single lead system. We're going to turn the calibration jig on, and there's a real small arrow up in the top right hand corner. We want to make sure that arrow is pointing to PSI and not one of the 3 other measurements. Now we're going to clamp our sensor into the calibration jig, and we want to push the clamp down nice and firmly. I'm going to go back to my stats page, and you can see that I have a slight amount of pressure already built up in the chamber. So what I want to do is I want to bleed that excess pressure out, and I'm just going to push this expulsion valve on the pump, and that should drop back down to 0 psi. If for some reason that does not drop 0 psi, that may mean that we are pinching the sensor in the clamp. So we would have to re-clamp the sensor down into the jig. Now we're ready to calibrate, so we're going to click on the calibration tab. I'm going to hit reset. I'm going to go into my first set point. We're going to delete the number that is there. Then I'm going to go to my pump. I'm going to give 1 full pump. Now I'm going to read the number on my gauge and enter that number into our box. We're going to hit calibrate, and we're going to wait till this is done calibrating before we go into our second set point. I'm going to give another full revolution, read my number, which is 18.3. We're going to hit calibrate. And it's good to let the gauge plateau out. Initially it may drop 1 to 2 psi. Now we're going to go into our third and final set point. 1 full pump. And then we're going to give it a couple seconds to stabilize before typing in our final number. Now we're going to hit return to drop that screen down, and I want to hit save. It's important that you hit the return button before you hit save to ensure that all the numbers have properly saved. Now I'm going to go back into my stats page, and you can see now that our PSI pressure is around 27, and our PSI pressure on our gauge is 27. So now we can drop and bleed all the air out of the system, and then I'm going to give 1 full pump again. We're going to read our gauge at around 9.5 psi, and our PSI is holding around 9 to 9.5. This system is completely calibrated and ready for use. We can take it out of our jig and place it in the device and pressure measure the areas where we want to measure.